The morning began like any other. The lights were still on inside the house. The street was quiet, but silence is often the most unsettling sign. They were home. Their personal belongings were left behind. There were no signs of a struggle. When police arrived, the doors were intact. The windows were closed. Nothing suggested forced entry. Search efforts began immediately. Neighbors were questioned. The streets were checked. Missing persons flyers were distributed. The faces of 3 women spread across the area. Police dogs followed a scent. But at one point, and that is what makes it truly haunting, as if they vanished into thin air. Days passed, then weeks, and the questions grew louder. How can people disappear without a trace? To this day, the case remains unsolved. At this stage, the case drew national attention. Media arrived at the scene. Questions grew. Pressure increased. Detectives returned to the house again and again. Every detail was re-examined, but nothing changed. Witnesses were interviewed. Their statements didn't match. That made the case even more complex. The evidence board filled up. Photos, notes, timelines. Still, no clear answers. Days turned into weeks. Hope slowly faded. The case began to grow cold. The most disturbing part remained. The questions stayed, and the answers never came. At this stage, the investigation became more complicated. The amount of evidence increased, but clarity disappeared. Photos, dates, and notes were connected, yet none of them provided clear answers. Every new detail created another question. Witnesses were interviewed, but their statements didn't match. Some changed details. Others claimed to forget important moments. This made investigators more cautious, because one false detail could lead the case in the wrong direction. Time kept moving. Days turned into weeks. Pressure continued to build. Case files piled up, but there was still no conclusion. It became increasingly clear that this was not a simple disappearance. Something was being hidden, and the most troubling question emerged. If the evidence doesn't align, does that mean someone isn't telling the truth? At this stage, the investigation took a different turn. The focus shifted to the witnesses. Interrogation rooms were silent. Questions were precise. Every movement was carefully observed. Some witnesses spoke confidently. Others avoided eye contact. Their hands trembled. Their voices changed. Investigators noticed everything. Every statement was recorded. Every word was reviewed. But there was a problem. The accounts didn't match. Some witnesses remembered the timeline differently. Others denied key details. Suspicion began to grow. The evidence board filled up again. New photos, new dates. Still, no clear answers. That's when investigators realized something troubling. Someone wasn't telling the truth. And the most unsettling question emerged. If one witness is lying, what are they hiding? Time passed. The house remained. The street grew quiet again. Police tape was removed. The investigation slowly stopped. The case was labeled cold. Files were placed into boxes, stored on shelves, covered in dust. But the questions never disappeared. Families kept waiting. Years passed. No answers came. Missing persons flyers faded. But the names were never forgotten. Life in the neighborhood continued, yet the case was never truly closed. Sometimes investigators pause, staring at a single photograph, and the same question returns. If the case is closed, where is the truth? And the most important question remains unanswered. What really happened that night?